Happy Sabbath. We are studying a different topic now, but still from Daniel 11 verses 1 to 45. We are going to study about the realm of Grecia. Right? What is the realm of Grecia? Now, do you notice this? Obviously, this is one of the biggest symbols of Greece. What is this? The Parthenon, right? It's a temple on the Acropolis, right? The Acropolis right there. The Acropolis in Athens, right? It's actually built in 447 to 432 BC, right? And it was dedicated to the city's patron deity Athena, right? And inside there, well, behind those pillars there would have been a huge god, right? A statue of the goddess, right? And this temple was dedicated. This temple was dedicated to the victory by the Greeks over the what? Over the Persians, right? Who invaded during the time of Darius and Xerxes, right? Yeah. So this was a commemoration that the Greeks won the war against the Persians, right? Against the Persians, right? All right. So someday, who knows? You'll go see that place. I remember being there, and the one thing I remember going there is all the graffiti. All the graffiti there. The thing about it is, you see graffiti from like 4 BC. You see graffiti from 30 BC.
I thought you meant like spray paint.
No. This is actually etchings of people saying, I was here. This is like by Romans, by all kinds of people. And you know what? I saw some Indonesian graffiti too. I'm pretty sure there were some Jamaican and Filipino graffitis there. Yeah. Because when you go see that place, it is pretty impressive. I mean, wow. Can you imagine just going there, right? But anyway, we're going to study the realm of Grecia. Now, where is it mentioned in the Bible about the realm of Grecia? It's in Daniel 11, right? Verses, I got to back up a little bit. Daniel 11, verses 1 to 4. Also I, in the first year of Darius the Mede, even I stood up to confirm and strengthen him. So it is talking about Daniel. I stood up to strengthen Darius the Mede. Okay, I don't have a picture of Darius the Mede, right? But anyway, Darius the Mede. And now I will show ye the truth. Behold, there shall stand up yet 3 kings in Persia. Is it 3 kings after Darius? No, it can't be. Because during the time of Darius, who was actually the king of the whole realm? It was Cyrus, right? Because Darius was basically the king in Babylon. But Cyrus was the king that conquered the whole country of Babylon. And Cyrus was Cyrus the Great. Okay, so, and yet there are going to be 3 kings in Persia. Right? Who are the 3 kings? All right, I'm going to test your memory. Who's the king? The 3 kings after Cyrus the Great. Who is it? The son of Cyrus is who? Cambyses. Okay, we're going to do this over and over again until everybody memorizes it. Okay, right? It's okay. Who is it after that? False Smyrdes. That's number 2. Who's the third one? Darius the Great. Okay, there's going to be 3. Cambyses, False Smyrdes, and Darius the Great. And the 4th shall be far richer than they all. And who's the 4th? Xerxes the Great. And by his strength, through his riches, he shall stir up all. He's going to stir up everybody in his realm. Right? Against the realm of Grecia. This is where we get the realm of Grecia here. So we're going to study what is it that Xerxes gonna stir up against the realm of Grecia. What's this realm of Grecia that Xerxes is going to be stirring up all his country against, right? He's gonna stir up against the realm of Grecia. And a mighty king shall stand up and shall rule with great dominion and do according to his will. Who is this? In verse 3, who's that mighty king will stand up? Prophetically, because he said, right? No, it's not Rome. Alexander the Great. But remember, there's a lot more. There's many other kings in between here, but they're not prophetically significant. But who's the prophetically significant king that comes afterwards? It's this mighty king. And he shall rule with a great kingdom and do according to his will. And when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken and divided into four winds. All right, so is that Alexander's kingdom is going to be divided into four generations, right? Okay, so four generals, right? Right. The east, west, north, and south. Who conquered the south? Ptolemy, right? Who conquered the west? Okay. No. Cassander. Who conquered the north? This is a quiz for you guys. Who conquered the north? Starts with L. Lysimachus. Okay. And who eventually conquers the east? Seleucus, right? Seleucus, right? So Seleucus, Ptolemy, Cassander, and Lysimachus, the four winds of the heaven, right? Those are four generals. But then they eventually, and not to his posterity, nor according to his dominion. But this dominion is a different word, meaning it's a parallel kingdom. Because there used to be four, then eventually it'll become a parallel kingdom between the north and the south. Because what happens? Seleucus beats Cassander and then beats Lysimachus. So then it will only be who left? Seleucus and Ptolemy. So there's going to be only two left. This is very important, right? So this kingdom is going to be divided into four. Then eventually it's going to be divided into two, right? There's going to be two left, right? And it's going to be a parallel kingdom. Okay, all right. So we understand the realm of Grecia. Now we have to understand the realm of Grecia. This Grecia was attacked by Darius the Great and Xerxes also, right? There was the Greek city-states, right? For those who did remember your world history, right? The Greece that Darius and Xerxes attacked was not a big universal empire, but it was city-states, right? There was Athens, there was Sparta, there was Ionia, there's all kinds of city-states, right, in Greece. It was not a big unified empire. But the kingdom of Alexander the Great was different because it's now a universal empire. It actually conquered the whole known world at that time. Okay? Alexander the Great. Okay. So what we're going to study is that we're going to see the difference. This Grecia right here is different than this Grecia right here. They're called Grecia, but it's going to be different. This Grecia here wins against Darius and Xerxes.
They call them Grecia, although
They also call Grecia also.
even though they're like Medo-Persia.
Mm,
Why they call Grecia and Medo-Persia?
no. Grecia was conquered by Darius, and Xerxes went to war against Grecia. But Grecia at that time was small city-states. It was not united. They were all fighting within each other. All city-states. So like, it's just one city is a kingdom, and another city is another kingdom. Like Athens is a kingdom. Sparta is another kingdom. Ionia is another kingdom. Macedonia is another kingdom. It's farther in the north, right? So, and Alexander the Great's father actually came from Macedonia. Yeah, there's so many city-states. Okay? All right. Okay, so we are going to find out that this Grecia here that went to war against Darius and Xerxes is different than this Grecia here. Okay, all right. And how's that significant for us? So we're gonna start here with Darius the Mede and Cyrus the Great. But I'm gonna do a little bit more detail into Darius the Mede, just because we haven't done this part before. Now, Darius the Mede, we have to prove that in the cuneiforms there is a mention of Darius the Mede, and there is. Okay, we just haven't done it before. We know that the Cyrus is mentioned in the cuneiforms. Remember? Yeah. But Darius is actually mentioned in the cuneiforms also. We just don't realize it. Okay, we're going to see. Now, who's Darius again? The night was Belshazzar, the king of Chaldeans, slain. And Darius the Mede took the kingdom. So Darius the Mede, he took the kingdom when Babylon fell, right? This is Daniel 5. And this is Belshazzar. Remember, people in the old days did not even believe that there was such a king called Belshazzar. Because they said, you know what? Herodotus and all the historians in Greece did not even mention Belshazzar. It's only after you find it in the cuneiforms and there was such a king, right? Okay. Now, what about in Daniel 6? It pleased Darius to set up over the kingdom 120 princes. All right, there's 120 princes. And how many presidents? How many presidents? 3 presidents. And who was the leader of the presidents? Daniel was the leader of the presidents. Okay, now Darius was 62 years old. That's actually prophetically significant. If you're looking for a 62, this is where you get 62. There's another 62 somewhere in the Bible. You can prove it. We're not going to go there. 120. Is 120 prophetically significant? Oh, yes, very. All right. 3? Oh, yes. Obviously, 3 is very prophetically significant. The most common one that we use as 3 is the 3 angels' message, right? Because Daniel also represents the first angel's message. All right, but Daniel became the first of the 3 presidents. Okay, so who is this Darius? Is he mentioned in the cuneiforms? All right, here we go. We go back to Nabonidus' chronicle. All right, okay, here we go. Nabonidus' chronicle. In the 17th year of Nabonidus, right? According to this chronicle. The 17th year of Nabonidus. Now, who's Nabonidus again? The father of who? No. The father of Belshazzar.
So the son of Nebuchadnezzar.
The son of Nebuchadnezzar is Evil Merodach. And Evil Merodach's sister married Nabonidus. And Nabonidus' son is Belshazzar. So Belshazzar is the grandson of Nebuchadnezzar, right? Darius, Xerxes is the son of Darius, right? Yeah, right. Okay, so this one is before. This is during the time of the Babylonians, okay? This is the time of Babylon. So the 17th year. So if you were to be asked, in what year did Babylon fall to the Medo-Persians? What would you say? For 539 or 538? The true answer is actually the 17th year of Nabonidus, right? Because if you suddenly woke up, and you woke up in the time that Cyrus came and attacked, and you ask these people, hey, what year are we in now? What would they say? Would they say we're in 539? No. They would say we're in the 17th year of Nabonidus, right? Yeah. Right? We're in the 17th year. Because 539 is our attempt to synchronize with their calendar. But their calendar is based on the reigns of their years, the kings, right? So it was in the 17th year of Nabonidus. And it was in the month of Elul that Nabonidus went to have some sort of festival. And at that time, Cyrus came attacked at Opis, and also he attacked in Sippar, right? But Cyrus was able, Nabonidus fled when Opis and Sippar was attacked, and on the 16th day of the 7th month, Babylon fell, right? Now there's mention here, there's a governor of Gutium by the name of Ugbaru. They say, you know what, this could be Darius. Ugbaru could be Darius. The problem is that Ugbaru died 3 weeks later. 3 weeks later? Yeah, 3 weeks later, Ugbaru died. Well, it's impossible. This can't be Darius. This can't be Darius. So, and then they entered Babylon. Cyrus entered Babylon on the 16th day of the 7th month, right? Which happens to be October 12, 539 BC. No, sorry, Babylon fell on the 16th day of the 7th month. And then Cyrus entered in the 3rd day of the 8th month. In the 3rd day of the 8th month, Cyrus entered Babylon, right? The Haru vessels were filled before him. There was peace in the city while Cyrus, his greeting to Babylon, in its entirety spoke. Gubaru, his district officer, appointed the district officers in Babylon. Look at this one. Gubaru, he appointed the district officers in Babylon. How many? There you go. 120 princes. Gubaru. Gubaru is actually Darius. Darius the Mede. No, not Ubaru, but it's Gubaru. Now, there's a professor in Andrews who made a paper, and you can download it actually from Andrews University Theological Seminary. And he had all the reasons why Gubaru is actually, he says Gubaru is actually Darius. And he had several reasons why. And the main reason is this one right here. That Gubaru appointed district officers in Babylon. Right? Okay, there you go. You know what? We've done a lot of cuneiforms just to prove the Bible. Here's another proof. Right? That Gubaru. Right? So Gubaru is actually Darius. Right? And he became king of a kingdom. But he's really the king of Babylon, the city of Babylon, right? Right. Because the king of the entire empire is Cyrus. Okay. Yeah, something like that. But yeah. He married okay. Right. He married the daughter of a Mede. Right. He married the daughter of a Mede. All right. This one we've read so many times, but it establishes the time of the end. Right? We need to establish the time of the end. What is the time of the end? The time of the end is the end of a wilderness period. The wilderness period, the long captivity, relentless persecution of God's people is the 1260 years of like the Waldenses hiding, right? During the time of the Protestants, right? That's the long period of relentless persecution also. It's the same as the captivity that is in Babylon, right? So, the end of the 1260 is 1798, which is the time of the end, means that the end of the 70-year period that when Babylon fell and Medo-Persia came to power is also the time of the end. Okay? So the time of Darius and Cyrus is the time of the end. Okay? All right. Make sure. This is Prophet and Kings 7:14.1. When we first understood this, it opened up so much information. Now that prophecy can be deciphered a little bit better. Okay. Because now we see, according to Daniel 11, verse 1 and 2, and I in the first year of Darius the Mede. Right? The first year of Darius the Mede is the time of the end. Right? Because that's the end of the 70 years. Right? So this is the time of the end. So I at the time of the end, even I stood up to confirm and strengthen him. And now will I show you the truth. Behold, there shall stand up 3 kings. Right? So at the time of the end. So at the time of the end shall stand up 3 kings. All right. And the 4th shall be far richer. All right. So when we read Daniel 11 verse 1 to 2, we can put this right in this space right here. Because if this is the time of the end, according to Daniel 11 verse 40 part A, right? This is when the king of the north is defeated by the king of the south, right? And the king of the south goes against the king of the north. Who's that? France goes against the papacy. And then at the time of the end, the king of the north will take revenge on the king of the south. That's 40 part B. And we know that's in 1989, when the papacy takes revenge against Russia with the help of America's military and economic power. That's Daniel 11 verse 40 part B. Okay? So if this is the time of the end, then we can put these 3 kings right after the time of the end. Because if this is Darius and Cyrus, then, okay, this is Darius and Cyrus. Then we have Cambyses, false Medes, Darius the Great, and then Xerxes. And now we put verse 16. Verse 16. Who is the Roman Caesar that entered into the glorious land? Not the Roman Caesar, the Roman general that entered into the before Christ. What is his name? Starts with a P. Pompey. Okay, it's Pompey, right? And who is the Roman Caesar that, he wanted to become Roman Caesar. He entered into the strength of his country and he corrupted the daughter of women. No, Julius Caesar, all right? And who's the raiser of taxes? Remember, this is verse 16 to 22. Who's the raiser of taxes? Caesar Augustus. And then who is the vile person who will not receive the honor of his kingdom and shall stir up the realm of... It's not, he's the one that stir up the realm of Grecia, but this is one, he's the vile person that will not receive the honor of his kingdom. And what's the third? I memorized this one, but he's the one that, okay, what is third characteristic? He obtained the kingdom by flatteries, right? Obtained the kingdom by flatteries. He does not receive the honor of his kingdom. Is he receiving the honor of his kingdom right now? Nobody's honoring him. And he's what? He's a vile person? Wow. And he's also the richest, the far richer of them all. And he's the one that's going to stir up the realm of Grecia. Stir up all. Remember, he's going to stir up all against the realm of Grecia. Right? Okay. And in his estate shall stand up a vile person. Daniel 11 verse 21. To whom they shall not give the honor of the kingdom, but he shall come in peaceably and obtain the kingdom of flatteries. Right? Verse 22 now. And with the arms of a flood shall they be overflown before him. What's the arms of a flood that shall overflow before him? What is the arms of the flood? The overflowing scourge. What is the overflowing scourge? Now, we studied this multiple times in the past. This is going to be a review. Right? What's the overflowing scourge that's going to pass over Jerusalem? 70 AD. Right? 70 AD. But what is that in our time? What's the overflowing scourge that's going to come in our time? The Sunday law. Right? The Sunday law is going to come. Right? That's what verse 22. This is why we know during this time, Tiberius, it's going to be a Sunday law. Right? There's going to be a Sunday law. Yea, and shall be broken. Yea, also the prince of the covenant. So Israel is going to be broken. Yea, even so, the prince of the covenant. And Jesus is going to be broken. Because it was during the time of Tiberius that Jesus was crucified. Right?
Who is the Caesar during 70 AD?
70 AD. Okay, do you remember? We did this before. Vespasian. Right.
So what is can you explain the surge?
The overflowing surge is that. So it says, okay, there's going to be an overflowing scourge afterwards. Right? Okay. Israel is going to have to receive the overflowing surge. Yea, he will be broken. Yea, the prince of the covenant. Because the prince of the covenant was broken when? During his time.
Yeah, during his time.
Right, so it's talking about the prince of the covenant being broken. So at the time that Jesus was crucified, it is at this time. Right, and that Jesus' crucifixion also can line up with the Sunday law. Right, because Sunday laws happen at midnight cry. And this, the time of Esther and Haman is also a Sunday law also, right? So this Sunday law is going to happen here. All right. Okay. This is a review for us, right? Yeah, it should be a review. Okay. So who's the president? Yeah, we know. We're in the time of this president, right? He's the richest of them all, and he does not receive the honor of the kingdom, and he's a vile person, and he obtains the kingdom by flatteries, and he's going to bring in the Sunday law. All right? Okay. All right. Verse 3 to 4. And a mighty king shall stand up. Remember who's that? Alexander the Great. So that's verse 3, right? Mighty king shall stand up, and he shall rule with great dominion and do according to his will. And when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken, and shall be divided towards the four winds of the heaven. So that's when it's divided among his generals right here, right? Now that's verse 4. And not to his posterity, nor according to his dominion, which he ruled. For his kingdom shall be plucked up, even for others besides those. All right? So what we'll see here, at this kingdom here, this kingdom of Alexander the Great, that is actually going to be plucked up and divided into the four winds of heaven. It's going to be a different kind of Greece than this Greece right here. For one thing, we know this is an empire and this is a city-state. So that's in the kind of in the typical, right? But prophetically, we're going to have to see that this is different also. Greece here is different than Greece here. Okay, we're going to see how it's different. Okay, all right. And the mighty king, right, that shall stand up is Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great. Now in Bible prophecy, Greece is compared to what? Okay, when in Daniel 8, the king of Grecia is a rough goat, right? He's a rough goat. Okay, that's the rough goat. And a great horn that is between his eyes is the... Why does it say the first king? Why is Alexander the Great the first king? There's Greece already here. Greece has been going on. Why is he considered the first king? Yeah, because he's the first king of the universal empire now, right? Yeah, he's the first king. But we used to say, okay, he's the first king because he's the greatest king. And he is the greatest king of Grecia. But when we look at this now, we can see that even though there are Grecian kings even before here, he's the first king of the empire, right? That's why this empire of Greece is different than these Greek states here, okay? That went to war against Medo-Persia under Darius and Xerxes, right? What else is Greece compared to in Daniel 7? What is he like? Like a what? What kind of beast is in Daniel 7? If you remember, don't look at your Bible. What is he like in Daniel 7? Greece is like what? In Daniel 8, he's like a goat, in a rough goat with one horn. In Daniel 7, what is he like? Remember anybody?
Bear or
No, not a bear. Yeah, it's got to. Remember, he divided into 4, right? He's got to have 4. He's going to have 4 heads. What is he like? He's going to have 4 wings. He's going to be fast, like he's going to have 4 wings of an eagle. He's going to be fast, like a leopard.
Okay, it's like a leopard with wings.
With 4 wings, because he's going to go so fast. Like, remember, how many years did it take for Alexander to conquer the earth? Like 12 years. Can you imagine riding a horse and conquering the earth in 12 years? That's pretty amazing. Yeah. Right? So, 4, it's got 4 heads and 4 wings because he rides so fast. And the leopard is very fast, right? Okay. What about in Daniel 2? What is Grecia compared to? Okay, you better know this.
Image,
Yeah, what?
he was on the throne.
Right, what was he? The belly and thighs of brass. Brass, right? Okay, you remember that now? Okay, so Greece is like the rough goat, the leopard, and the belly of thighs of brass, okay? Just to make sure you remember. Okay. Right, now we're going to read something from Josiah Litch. I have to read this whole thing, because I'm going to have to read this whole thing. It's pretty interesting. Anyway, Xerxes' expedition to Greece is one of the most memorable adventures in ancient history. Oh. Herodotus. Now, Herodotus is one of the historians, right? The secular historian. Affirms that Xerxes, in raising his army, searched every place of the continent, and it was the greatest army that ever was brought into the field. For what nation was there, says he, that Xerxes led not out of Asia into Greece? From Asia, they're going to invade Greece, which is in Europe. Herodotus lived in that age, and he recounts with great exactness the various nations of which Xerxes' army was composed, and computes that the whole number of horse and foot by land and sea out of Asia and out of Europe, soldiers and followers of the camp, amounted to 5,283,220 men. Can you imagine? 5 million. How are they going to support that? This is amazing. Can you, like even taking like 300 people on a road trip, it's tough. Imagine taking 5 million, right? Nor was Xerxes content with stirring up the east, but was stirring up the west likewise, and engaged the Carthaginians. Who's the Carthaginians? Tunisia. That's now Islam. You know what? Xerxes is going to stir up Islam also. All right? That while he and his army overwhelmed Greece, they might fall upon the Greek colonies in Sicily and Italy. And the Carthaginians, for this purpose, not only raised all the forces they would in Africa, but hired a great number of mercenaries in Spain and Gaul. Gaul is where? France and Italy. So that their army consisted of 300,000 men and their fleet of 200 ships. Thus did Xerxes stir up all against the realm of Grecia, and after him no mention is made of any other king of Persia. It is to be noted, said Jerome, that the prophet, having enumerated the 4 kings of Persia after Cyrus, slippeth over 9. So after the 4 kings, there's no mention of the 9 kings afterwards. They're not even prophetically significant. Jumps all the way to Alexander the Great. And Alexander the Great, who would be, if he slips over 9, he just, Alexander the Great could be considered the 10th. Does 10 mean something? All right. Yeah, perfect, right? Yeah. Slip over 9, and so Alexander would be as if the 10th, right? Although he's the first, right? He's the 10th, but he's also the first. Oh boy, right? Okay. Xerxes was the principal author of the long wars and inveterate hatred between Grecians and Persians, and as he was the last king of Persia who invaded Greece, he is mentioned last. The Grecians then in their turn invaded Asia, and Xerxes' expedition being the most memorable on one side as Alexander's was on the other. The reigns of these two are not improperly connected together. So that's why the 4th king, which is Xerxes, are connected to Alexander, even though there's 9 in between. That is not significant, right? Because they are fighting each other, right? Okay. This is from Josiah Litch, right? Josiah Litch. Okay. In Daniel 11:2 is a prophecy spoken in 3rd year of Cyrus, saying, "Behold, there shall stand up 3 kings." All right. It was fulfillment of this prophecy that Xerxes invaded Greece in 480 BC with the largest army ever known. When it resisting it, 300 Spartans under Leonidas immortalized themselves at Thermopylae, right? They made Hollywood movies about this. When the Greeks repelled the Persians at Thermopylae, and there are 300 Spartans that repelled them. It was in preparation for this invasion of Greece that he gathered all the princes and governors to his empire in Susa, as recorded in Esther. And what did he do? How did he gather them? What did he do? He made a feast. For how long? 6 months. Yeah. Was it a year or 6 months? But anyway, it was very long. Right. He called the governors and princes of the provinces to his capital to deliberate upon the invasion of Greece, and to levy the tribute and the forces that should be furnished by each province for this purpose. The royal entertainment continued 6 months, but it was no later than the 7th day of the feast when the king in his drunkenness commanded his chamberlains to bring who? Vashti the queen before the king with the crown royal, to show the people and his princess her beauty. But the queen refused to come. Then the king in council decided to put her away, and to publish a decree in the language of every people, that every man has to rule his own house. Right. Wow. So now you know the context, right? When he was having this big party, it's really a preparation to go to war. It's really a preparation to go to war. So history fits. It perfectly fits the story of Esther, right? Okay. All right.
He had a great army, right?
Yeah, he built everything. He had, and how many?
And he lost.
And he still lost, right? And he lost. Then in his 6th year, he led his army into Greece, suffered a terrible defeat at Salamis and at Plataea. And like Sennacherib, who's Sennacherib? The king of Assyria. What did he do? He sieged Jerusalem. And his general, what was the general's name? Rabshakeh. He was mocking Isaiah on the wall. Hey, he says, hey, he was mocking in their tongue. And he says, don't use our language, use your own language. Speak in Syrian, right? Yeah, and he says, oh, you know what? Your city has been given to us, right? Eventually, Rabshakeh was killed with 185,000 of his soldiers the next day, and Sennacherib had to go back defeated, right? He had to go back defeated.
The one that was against Pharaoh, that's different.
Oh no, that's different. That's different, right? This is time of Hezekiah, right? Like Sennacherib of old, returned the shame of face into his own land. And there he and the rest of his days sought to occupy himself in the exercise of arms of a very different nature from those which he had been occupied in the invasion of Greece. Then he remembered Vashti and what she has done and what was decreed against her. It would seem that he remembered Vashti with the wish to call her to his side again. But the decree of the Persians and Mede had been published against her, and it was impossible to alter or reverse, so that he was compelled to do without Vashti and seek another in her place, and the choice fell upon Esther, the adopted daughter of her cousin Mordecai, right? And you know the story, right? It completely fits. So the thing about it is that when Xerxes, okay, this is very important, when Xerxes is going to stir up all against the realm of Grecia, it actually required a long period of preparation, right? So right now, I think, you will see a rise, kind of a progression of time. It doesn't happen right away. In other words, this presidency doesn't suddenly, it's going to take a little time for him to stir up all against the realm of Grecia. Yeah, well, he's got 4 years to do it, right? Okay. All right, so we're going to put this on a timeline here. All right, how are we doing with time? Okay, we're doing okay. All right, so we're going to have to put this on a timeline. All right? So Greece symbolized the earth, the world. And we have always thought that Greece symbolized the United Nations at the end of the world, right? So now what we're going to do is we show that Greece in verse 2 is actually different. This Greece right here is different than the Greece right here. Okay? All right. So what happened? In 1989, Cyrus okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the years. Right? I'm going to put the years here. 1989 is when George Bush took over from Reagan. Okay? So in 1989, both of them actually reigned for the same 20 days. But after that, Bush took over. In 93, it was Clinton. When was Bush the second? What year? 2001. Wow, 9/11, right? Exactly, right? When was Obama? 2009. And then, obviously, 2017. Okay, now we're going to put the years, okay? I had to go back and look at the years, because the years eventually became important, because you're going to have to put the wars, right? We're going to have to study the wars of these Greeks versus the Persians. All right, so I had to get the years, right? We got to get the years here. 539 was Darius the Mede. That's the first year that Darius the Mede and Cyrus conquered Babylon. Okay. 537, Cyrus takes over from Darius because Darius dies after 2 years. All right. Cambyses on 530. False Medes you don't count because he doesn't even reign for more than a year. Right. So he was in 522. But then he was right away replaced by Darius the Great, so 522, right? And then a battle happens. It's called the Battle of Marathon. Have you heard the Battle of Marathon?
Yes. He died.
The Battle of Marathon is pretty interesting. Yeah. The Battle of Marathon is where the term, the marathon, the runners of the marathon, right, in the Olympic Games, okay? That's the Battle of Marathon. And the Battle of Marathon is actually a war between Darius against the Greek states, right? Because the Greeks, they want to rebel against the Persians. Now the Persians were the big king in the big country, the big empire that ruled all over the world of that time and ruled parts of Greece. Now Greeks being city-states, they were rivals. But when they had a common enemy, then they joined up together. So they revolted, right? So Darius says, okay, you guys going to revolt, I'm going to attack you. So Darius attacks. And then they had a war in Marathon, okay? Right. We'll go into more detail about Marathon because it's pretty interesting. All right? So that's Darius. What about Xerxes? Now Xerxes, we know, he stirred up all against the realm of Grecia. Okay, starting at 485, he starts stirring up the realm of Grecia. Then he goes to war. When he goes to war, the war that he went to against the Greeks were at Thermopylae. Anybody remember this? I don't expect you to know this, but we're going to study this. This is going to be very interesting. At Thermopylae, what happens? He neither wins or loses. It was like a stalemate. Nobody won, nobody lost. Right? So eventually, the war shifted to another place. Right? So they went to war at Thermopylae, but both sides basically kind of stalemated. And they shifted to another place. It's called the Battle of Salamis. In 480, still in 480, the Battle of Salamis is a naval war. The Greeks won here. And then they went to war again, Plataea, and the Greeks won again. So basically, Xerxes was defeated, right? There's a stalemate here, and there's in these two wars right here, the Persians were defeated. Okay? All right. Then in 332, Greece under Alexander the Great takes revenge against the Persians, right? And he only ruled until 323, because then he dies and his kingdom was divided into 4. All right? Okay? What I figured out, there's going to be these Salamis, Plataea, and Thermopylae wars are important. But another war right here is important also. Okay? At the Battle of Marathon. And over here, the Greeks win against Persia, against Darius. Right? So how does the Greeks win against Obama? Okay, that's the question. How does the Greeks win against Obama? Because we have to look at history. Okay? All right, I'm going to make an argument of how Greeks win against Obama. So who's Greece? The conquest of Cyrus the Great. So now we go back. Let me see here. Right? So right here, Cyrus the Great, right? he now conquers. His area is huge, and it involves certain areas even all the way into the Greek islands, right? But now the Greek islands, some of them rebel. All right. Now the story goes this way. All right. After inheriting the empire of the Medes, Cyrus first had to consolidate his power over the Iranian tribes in Iran. All right. The Croesus, the king of Lydia, had enlarged his domain at the expense of the Medes when he heard the fall of Astyages and Cyrus. The thing is, Astyages is the father of Cyrus' wife, right? So when Astyages dies, Cyrus becomes the king of the Persians. And then when Croesus realizes, hey, you know what, the king dies, what I'm going to do, I'm going to grab some territory. So Cyrus says, wait a minute, you can't suddenly start grabbing territory. I'm going to have to punish you. So Cyrus goes and attacks Croesus, right? Okay, that gets a little complicated, but essentially he starts going against Greece, right? Because Greece is starting to rebel against Persia, right? The Ionian Greek cities on the Aegean Sea coast. Okay, Ionia is a Greek city-state. And the Aegean Sea coast, this is Greece. As the vassals of the Lydian king now became subject to Cyrus, and most of them submitted after short sieges. Several revolts of the Greek cities were later suppressed with severity. Next, Cyrus turned to Babylonian. So what he did, he had to conquer Greece first. He had to subjugate Greece. After he subjugated Greece, then he went to Babylon. All right? Then he went to Babylon. All right. Okay. Right. So it was not difficult for him to conquer Babylon, right? Yeah, it was pretty much not much resistance because the gates were open. He just blocked the water into the Euphrates, and the gates were open. He just entered, and not much resistance in conquering the city of Babylon, right? In October 539 BC, the greatest city of the ancient world fell to the Persians, all right? So the first thing that Cyrus had to do, he has to conquer Greece because there were some revolts, okay? What happened afterwards? There was an Ionian Revolt. So the Greeks now, they revolt. Some of the Ionian cities of Asia Minor, they revolted against the Persians. The cities deposed their own tyrants, and with the help of the Athens, unsuccessfully to throw off Persian domination. Okay, so they started revolting against the Persians. They don't want to be under Persia. The Greeks want to be independent, right? Now, my question is, why is it so important for the Persians to conquer the Greeks? The Greeks it's like nothing. It's pretty desolate there. The islands are pretty desolate and very dry. There's not much industry there. But why does the Greeks have to conquer the Persians have to conquer the Greeks?
Because of the situation.
Because the Greeks have their philosophy and their religion. And it's kind of like they have to conquer everything. They need to conquer everything, right? The Greeks has their culture and their religion.
That's what the Greek is.
And their educational system.
They said civilization.
Civilization.
Greece.
Right,
That's
right,
what they're very proud of.
right,
The library,
right. So that's why the Persians had to conquer Greece. Even though Greece is strategically not very lucrative, right? Okay, right. So the Greeks, they rebelled. Okay, they want to rebel. Okay, right. How did they rebel? They helped each other, but Darius now wanted to suppress the rebellion. Okay, so he sent his troops down, and he attacks at the Battle of Marathon. Right? Here are the Greeks against the Persians. Okay, the Persians look like this, I guess, right? These are the Persians, and here are the Greeks, right? The Persians and the Greeks. Okay, here's the story. The story is pretty interesting. Okay, the Battle of Marathon, right? It happened in 490 BC. It was Darius, remember? Darius. Before Xerxes, okay, this is Darius. He wants to suppress the rebellion of the Greeks, right? So he sends an army with ships. So he sends an army with ships, right? So it's on this side. He has to send army, and the army comes here and comes down, right? Here's the bottom. And when they come, they attack right at Marathon, right? They have a war right here. Amazing thing is that the Greeks, they repel the Persians, even though the Persians were much more stronger, right? They repelled the Persians right here. And the Persians, they have to go back on their ships, right? They have to go back on their ships. The problem is that the Greeks now say, the Persians, they're not going back to Persia. They're actually going to come here, and they're going to go to the other side, and they're going to attack Athens, right? So they're going to go across this strait right here, and they're going to attack Athens. So what happens? According to Herodotus, they send a runner. According to Herodotus, they sent a runner from Athens. Athens, his name was, what was this? Perfides. Do you remember, RC? What was the name? Yeah, what was his name? Phidippides, okay? Phidippides was sent, according to Herodotus, Phidippides was sent to run from Athens to Sparta. Sparta is down here. Okay, I don't have it on the map. This is a long ways. So he ran, for many days he ran all the way to Sparta, asking for help. From Sparta, right? When he arrived there, he dies. And when he ran, he was naked. And then when he arrived to Sparta, he dies. He dies. And then they want, and they wanted to help him, right? But the thing, now the soldiers that won here against the invading Persians, they jogged all the way back. Now this, yeah, with their armor, after winning a war, they were really tired, right? They had to jog back because they know that the Persians are going to come and attack by water to here, to Athens. So they jogged all the way back here, and this is about 25 miles, right? By the time they arrived there, the Persians basically did not attack anymore. So they won, right? Now the problem is that this story has been, after many years, this story becomes different now. It becomes a different legend now. As it was told over and over again, the story changes. Now they said, you know what? Perfides, he didn't run from Athens. Perfides, what was his name? Phidippides. Phidippides, okay? Phidippides, he didn't run from Athens to Sparta. He actually ran from Marathon to Athens, right? Okay, so in 1896, when they're going to have the first Olympic Games in Athens, the commissioner says, okay, you know what? We should have something that will make it an Athenian type of, why don't we just resurrect this legend, saying that Phidippides ran from Marathon to Athens, and we're going to have a marathon. You know what, everybody says, cool. We like that. So it became a marathon, became an Olympic event. And the distance is 25 miles. 25 miles, right? 100 what is that? 40 kilometers, right? It's 40 kilometers. So they ran from Marathon to Athens, and they had an Olympic Games, right? And so it becomes a legend. But actually, that's not according to Herodotus, but that's according to the legend. So then they will have a marathon that runs to Athens here. So all the marathons these days runs, is it 25 miles? 26.1. Right, so how did it become 26.1? The problem, how did it become 26.1?
I know, it was 45.
It used to be 25 because from Marathon to Athens is 25.
5 miles. Because half is 13 point.
Did you do half marathon?
So how did it become 26? Anthony, do you remember the story? 26. How did it become changed from 25 to 26? The story is pretty interesting. Actually, it's really not interesting, but it was because of the monarchy in England. When they had the London Games, they said, you know what, we're going to have this marathon that starts at the Windsor Castle, running all the way to the London Stadium.
Now it's 26.
And for the monarchy to watch the finish line, they had to, they had to make the route somehow. They make them, you know what, it's going to be longer than 25. It actually turns out to be 26.1. It's just so that the monarchy can actually watch the ending of that marathon. And from that time on, 26.1 is established as a marathon. Can you imagine that story? Yeah, but anyway, that's the Battle of Marathon. The point is, who won this Battle of Marathon? No, it wasn't a draw. The Greeks won. The Greeks won.
They were held by Sparta.
So Darius lost. The Greeks won. Okay. See this guy. This is them running from here to here. Marathon. Phidippides. But in one legend he said, he's running naked. When you go to the internet, you see all kinds of naked people running the marathon.
Well, he had the clothes, but it was too hot. He was running non-stop. He took off his clothes.
Then he died at the end. That's the legend, The stories change. It becomes, nobody knows the real story now. And then when you go there, you go to Greece someday, you can run this marathon here. That's Phidippides. That's the real marathon. When the Athens War. You know what? Let's go to marathon and take a picture right there.
There's marathon in the island marathon going to
Right?
the Keys. Yeah, Keys.
Yeah. Yeah. The point is, at that time, Darius lost, right? At the Battle of Marathon. So now you'll not forget Battle of Marathon, right? You know Battle of Marathon. Okay, let's see, how are we doing? Okay, we're still okay. We got to go to Battle of Thermopylae. Okay, this Battle of Thermopylae is after Xerxes, he already gathered all these 5 million people, right? Going to go to war. Now they're going to attack. Now, how is 5 million people going to cross from Asia to Europe? Are they going to cross at the Bosphorus? Right? No, they actually cross at the Dardanelles. So this is Turkey, and this is Asia, and this is Europe. Okay, the Dardanelles is the southern part of that channel. The northern part is Bosporus, where Istanbul is. The Dardanelles is actually a little bit more south to it. And what did Xerxes do? He actually built a pontoon bridge with what? With ships. So he lined up all the ships there, and they put planks, and 5 million people walked across the Dardanelles. This is 480 BC. 480 BC. Can you imagine that? All right. That's pretty impressive. 5 million people walked across. Right. across the, yeah. So, now there's, that's just impressive, to do that in 490 BC. Across across a body of water from Asia to Europe, the Dardanelles. No, the Black Sea is further up, right? The Dardanelles, right? So what they did, here's the story, okay? They came down. So this is Asia up here, and then they started walking down, right? Now they wanted to go and attack Athens. Athens is right here. Where's Athens? Athene, right there? There's Athens. So what they want to do is they want to attack Athens here. The problem is that right here, this is all mountains, and there's only a small pass. And this is the pass. The pass is very small, right? All these people want to pass through is very difficult. So the Greeks will say, okay, what we'll do is we just defend the pass right here. And they had just, their troops were very small, right? And the other thing is that they also had a navy. Their navy was situated right here at Artemis, right? Right, at Artemis. So they said, okay, we're going to block the navy right here, and we're going to block the army right at Thermopylae. Thermopylae is right here, Artemis right here. So they're going to block the Persians from coming. Because what they want to do is they want to come here and attack Athens, right? But at Thermopylae, it was a very small strait there. And the problem is that if you have a lot of people trying to go into small strait, you can't even win. It's very difficult. It's actually easier to win if you have a small army. And the problem is that these Persians, they're what they call that, they don't have swords, but they have big long pikes. It was too long. And to go through a small space with these long pikes, actually it was a very disadvantageous. Right, they poke each other with this big long pipe. And the Greeks, they have a short swords. So they're actually winning right there. Because it was such a small place. Right, Thermopylae. Right, yeah. The thing is they defended this strait for just a few days, and the Persians can't pass through until somebody actually betrayed them. Right. A Greek betrayed them, and he says, you know what? If you want to go through this pass is too narrow for all of you to pass by, and you're going to lose there. What you do is you go through here. There's a place that you can go, bypass around, and you will cut them, and this is a Hollywood movie. Yeah. It's called what? 300. See? Now you remember. It's a movie. It's called 300. Right. Yeah. Right. Now you remember. This is actually. Right. So 300 defended this place. But the problem is there was somebody that betrayed them. And the Persians, they went out through the mountain pass and got them on the other side. So these 300, they fought until they all died. Right? They gave up. So the Greeks lost here. Right? But then the army says, okay, you know what? If our buddies have lost over on the land, then what we'll do is we'll just backtrack. So they backtracked all the way to Salamis, right here. Right? So the Persians came, and then when they entered into Athens, there was nothing in Athens. It was deserted. So they burned Athens. The problem is that the Greeks, they retreated so they can recoil, and then they're going to fight again, right? Okay. So the 300 that died here became very symbolic. As a matter of fact, it caused the Greeks to rally against the Persians. Because, there's, 300 people died because of that. It made their morale actually much more stronger. And they're willing to fight even better. So they're immortalized by this. And you go to Thermopylae right now, this is what you're going to see. This is the statue of Leonidas, right? And the 300 that died over there, right? Okay. So this is the Battle of Thermopylae. The thing about it is, these Greeks, they were smart. They went back and regrouped. Okay. Where did they regroup? Salamis and Plataea. So there was 2 battles. Salamis, okay. Salamis was at on an island. They regrouped at an island, and they got the army to fight. I mean the navy to fight. And it was very good generalship of the Greeks. They were very good strategies. They're strategists, right? The Persians, they had like the manpower and all the people, but they did not know how to fight a war. They just went out there, let's go fight. By sheer, yeah. But the Greeks, they used their brains, right? Yeah, they're much more, tactical, right? So can you imagine that Xerxes went there and he watched from the side of he watched the fight between the 2 navies, and he watched his navy being routed by the Greeks, right? So then what happened is the year after that, they fought again in Plataea. And this time it's a war of the army. The problem is that these people were so far away from their place, there's so many of them, that they died of starvation, and the Greeks had the upper hand and beat the Persians. So the Persians were beaten in the navy, and as an army was beaten. 480 and 479 at Salamis and Plataea. Okay. 2 wars they were beaten. 2. Midnight cry, right? Okay. All right. Oh, the other thing about Plataea, this one thing is kind of, well, this one here is pretty amazing, is that there was this, it's called the Serpent's Column. When the Greeks won, they built the Serpent's Column at Delphi, and there's a serpent column here, and on the top there's 3 heads of gold serpents, and they wrote all the names of the city-states that went to war, right? So when Constantine Rome conquered Greece, Constantine decided to take this column that was built by the Greeks in 480 BC from the city of Delphi, and he moved it to Istanbul. And you know what? If you go to Istanbul right now, you can still see this column that commemorates the war of Salamis and Plataea, right? You can still go see this. Now, one thing about Plataea is pretty amazing, is in Plataea, afterwards, in 430, about 40 years later, now the Greeks are fighting each other. Plataea against Athens. And this, in Plataea, is the first time in recorded history that poisonous gas was used as a weapon of mass destruction. In 430 BC. They used sulfur gas. They used sulfur gas. Sulfur fumes. Plataea.
How did they get it there? Was it there naturally? Or?
Yeah, I guess they have, they have what? They got to have some volcanoes and all this. And they actually used. The amazing thing, you got to remember, Plataea has something to do with weapons of mass destruction using gas. And we're going to see this because it's going to happen in World War I. World War I is famous for the use of weapons of mass destruction using gas. but it was first used in Plataea, not at 479, but later on. But Plataea is famous for the weapons of mass destruction. And Plataea lines up at Midnight Cry. You know what? You think there's going to be weapons of mass destruction that's going to happen at Midnight Cry when Islam attacks? Wow. You know, we may know something. All right? Okay. All right, we're almost there. Okay. So we got to Salamis and Plataea. We got Thermopylae, we got Salamis and Plataea, and we got Marathon, right? Yeah. So we got Cyrus, Cambyses, Darius, Xerxes. And there's 9 of them that were skipped. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 was skipped. From Xerxes to Alexander. Meaning this Alexander right here, he was fighting Darius III. Here's Darius III fighting Alexander. And this is a mosaic in the on the floor in the Roman city of Pompeii. All right, you can see this, right? They got it, but obviously they took it out and they put it in a museum now. This is the only mosaic that depicts Alexander, right here. That's Alexander right there, right? So if there's 9 kings, that means Alexander is the 10th, right? And then 10 also refers to the United Nations, right? Okay. And after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, and another third kingdom of brass will share, which shall rule over all the earth. This third kingdom of brass will rule over all the earth. So this represents the earth also, right? That's Daniel 2. After this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, right? Because he's fast, which had a back on it 4 wings of a fowl. And as if Alexander did not touch ground when he conquered the whole world, right? And dominion was given to it, right? Okay. Remember, William Miller's rule of interpretation number 10. What is that? That a symbol may have more than one meaning. More than one meaning. So if Greece can mean the United Nations, what do you think that Greece can also represent by putting all those lines together? We're going to put it right here. Okay? Here. Greece first loses against Darius the Mede in 1989. Who loses against Reagan and Bush in 1989? USSR. All right? And remember, at Battle of Marathon, who wins? The Greeks win. How did the Greeks win during the time of Obama? Okay, I'm going to ask you this. All right? All right. Now, we're obviously all alive during the time of Obama, and we know history of what happened during the time of Obama. How did Russia have the upper hand on America in the time of Obama? The Syrian war, right? Yeah. Russia enters the Syrian war, and can America do anything about it? Who's winning in the Syrian war right now? Bashar al-Assad. Who's behind Bashar al-Assad? Russia. What else? How did Russia have the upper hand against Crimea? Crimea. What happened what happens at the Crimean War? What happens at the Crimean War? Crimea.
Was shut down, but didn't say anything.
Yeah, because the Russians can just annex Crimea and Ukraine, and can America do anything about it? Nobody. America can't do anything about it. Russia can do anything it wants right now. We're going to annex Crimea. we're going to annex what? We're going to annex the Ukraine. And can you, America, do anything about it?
They shut down the airplane. They didn't say anything about it.
Yeah, they shot down, right? I don't remember that one. Oh, okay. Right. And there's another one. Very, very important. Who's Snowden?
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
no way.
Yeah.
Edward
He
Snowden.
was the one who
He was
did a program for
He worked for the
CIA.
NSA and he exposed the NSA.
Was it the time of Obama?
Yes.
Yeah.
And how did Russia get all the secrets of America NSA?
Yeah.
Now.
Snowden, political asylum.
So who wins at the Battle of Marathon during the time of Obama? Russia wins. Greece wins, right? Wow. Yeah. Okay. Now let's see. Now during this time, is Xerxes, building up an army?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is Xerxes right now going to build an army? Yeah. Economic and military power now, right? Stirring up the realm, right? Right. And then going to go to war, right? So it's building up an army right here, right? And it's going to war at Thermopylae. But what happens at Thermopylae? It's a stalemate. Is it a stalemate right now in Syria?
Yep.
But eventually America will win. But right now it's like a stalemate right now, right? At Thermopylae it's a stalemate. Okay, what happens at Salamis and Plataea? Who loses?
Persian loses.
Right.
The Greeks loses. The Persian loses.
Right. Yeah, the Greek wins, right? So Greece wins, right? Right, Greece wins. Right? Okay. Now, what happens here? Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great rises, right?
Yeah. The Greeks win.
Wait a minute. How could this be? Now if this is 9/11 here, and this is Russia. When did Russia win? Midnight. And this is midnight. And here Russia wins again? How could it be? How could it? This is why. This is a different Greece. This is an empire of. You see this now? This is a different Greece here. Yeah, this is when Greece is winning, and then eventually will lose, right? Right. But here is a different Greece. Who is this now? This is the United Nations. Now the United Nations is rising, right? Remember the United Nations will rise? And what will happen? It will be divided to the four winds. And then it will be given to the beast, right? It will be divided. Greece will be divided, all right? United Nations will be given to the four winds, all right? So now we see the Thermopylae here. We've seen Thermopylae, right? Russia is winning right now. Yeah, America can't do anything about Russia now, right? But America is trying to build up. But there's going to be stalemate. I think we're at the stalemate right now. And then Russia's going to win. Right here. Okay? That's Salamis and Plataea. It's nobody's winning. It's as if Russia can do anything it wants, America can't do anything, and it's like a stalemate. Nobody's actually winning the war.
Kind of like tie.
It's a tie.
Tie.
They cannot move.
They cannot move, right? Okay. And remember what Plataea represents? Plataea also represents a weapons of mass destruction. Yeah, at Plataea. Plataea is also, when you look at Plataea, that's another place where there's a weapons of mass destruction going to happen. Well, because we know after after this time is when Islam is going to ask for a bomb, remember? After midnight. After midnight.
They have that new thing that was
Yeah. Yeah. So it's some sort of big bomb. And Plataea was the first time ever in recorded history that they used weapons of mass destruction with noxious smoke.
doesn't that line up with the
Plataea.
10 plagues?
10 plagues, huh? Oh, I didn't line it up there, you know. Oh, that's a good what? Okay. All right, so we're gonna stop right here, and we'll continue next week, you know. All right. So we have seen that Russia can also represent Greece, even though United Nations represents Greece. That what we've been teaching, United Nations represents Greece, but it's a different form of Greece. All right. Okay, different. It's a different Russia here. This here is no longer Russia. Greece is the United Nations here. Okay. And that is a more sure word of